So, a very good afternoon and a happy new year to everybody, and welcome to our first Business Spotlight interview of 2024. I'm delighted to be joined this afternoon by Ian Wright. Ian, very good afternoon to you.
Hi, Ron. Nice to see you and Happy New Year.
Yeah, and to you. And Ian is the owner and founder and director of a business called the Social Ninjas. We're going to be hearing plenty more from Ian in just a few moments. Before we do that, I just really wanted to introduce myself and also the purpose of these interviews. So I'm Ron Maycock. I'm the owner of Business Performance UK and Action Coach Castleford. And the interview series that we actually do is a chance for us to showcase all of these wonderful businesses that are in our region, find out what's actually going on in their world, share that with other people and potentially clients and people of interest to that particular business and industry. And we do this all in the name of abundance. It's so that the more is the more people find out about the Social Ninjas, the better, and then that goes in a circular kind of way. So without further ado, we're going to crack straight on. I'm going to hand over to Ian. So Ian, do you want to tell me a little bit more about the Social Ninjas?
Yeah, of course. So I founded the Social Ninjas way back in, not that long ago, about 2017. Although I have been sort of engaged in the digital space well before that. But I'd been doing it alongside working other jobs and having other self-employed businesses. So I kind of decided to go 100% into it at that point. Now, obviously, that was pre-pandemic, so I had a couple of years to sort of have a good run at it before the whole world turned upside down. But what I found was that I'd come into that kind of space just at the right time with the right amount of knowledge. I had a small team around me that were helping me, my partner and my son-in-law, who was also very heavily involved in sort of digital promotion and video work and stuff like that. And then it kind of grew from there. I've always run businesses since I was in my 20s, which not that long ago, but well, maybe 30 odd years ago. And I've kind of grown with digital as businesses have evolved as well. So like 25 years ago, I was running a web design agency, which I ran for a few years. But then I was also a firefighter as well. I was a firefighter for 15 years, but I was always running a business while I was doing that kind of employment. So I've always kept on top of kind of the new trends, the new digital things. So when Facebook came along, I was one of the first people to get involved in it, not only just as a user, but also running ads, learning how the platform worked, keeping on top of all the different platforms as they came along. And I always had people coming to me asking me, how have you managed to do this? How have you done that? How are you so far ahead? So I always ended up helping other people. And then that kind of transitioned into helping other businesses because I'd been in business for so long. And then I thought, I just need to put all this together, really. Run a business, helping other businesses in the digital space. And that's kind of where the Social Ninjas kind of evolved from. So that's kind of where that came from.
And in terms of those businesses, what's ideal? These are people that aren't embracing social media in terms of generating new business, new opportunity, and new leads. Or are these people that are embracing it, but really need to improve what they're doing to get a better ROI in terms of moving forward and using it as a viable strategy?
Yeah, so in terms of the kind of users and the people that we're targeting, it's a mixture of what you've said. So we certainly like to help people who've got no social media presence whatsoever. So just to give you a quick example, I've moved house recently, and one of the first things you do when you move house is you look at the local restaurants that are around you and the takeaways, and you start using them. One of the restaurants that we found that's near us, which is really fantastic restaurant, no website, a very limited Facebook page with no menus on it, very difficult to contact and book them. So I had a quick chat with them, and they were like, well, we just don't know how to do this. We don't know how to set anything like this up. Don't really have a massive budget. So there's those people who certainly need help, and I really enjoy helping those kind of businesses. And then you've got businesses that think they're doing what they need to be doing on social media, but they're not really, they're just kind of playing at it. And this can be because they've got a lack of time, lack of resources or knowledge. So helping those. And then you do have other businesses that have a bit of knowledge and a bit of resource, but they're probably not optimizing what they're doing. They're not utilizing it as best they can be. We've approached bigger businesses sometimes that have been on social media for, over a decade, but they're not bringing in any business through social media, which really they should be. So, we'll approach those businesses as well. And sometimes you don't really know who needs help until you get talking to them. So it's doing a little bit of an audit across their kind of digital presence. How easy is it to find them? How easy is it to order from them and use their services? And then find out what they're doing themselves. Are they bringing in new business from it? Or are they just, using it as a day-to-day social media platform like an end user would?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. There's often we're challenging in both what you do and I do. I guess we're challenging how people are using it, and it always amazes me how many businesses out there with a marketing strategy or some kind of brand awareness or whatever it may be are using it for brand awareness without actually having a defined ROI and saying we're trying to generate this amount of opportunity and this amount of revenue. They just think one will lead to the other, and it doesn't. It has to be a proactive and conjoined effort to actually sort of drive it forward. So are you sector agnostic, or are there certain areas that you tend to gravitate towards just because of a personal affinity to that sector?
Yeah, so one of the things that I teach as well is that sometimes it's always good to have a niche that you work with. However, let me just go back a step. So when I first started, I had a very clearly defined niche, and that came through where I was working at the time and the kind of contacts that I had.
Mm-hmm.
So to give you a little bit of context, at the time, I'd been in hospitality for many years, probably for 15 years. So running restaurants, owning bars and live music venues. And those were the kind of people that were asking me for help to start with. So within a very short space of time, I ended up with about 15 clients, all either restaurants, bars, or nightclubs. So without looking for a niche or wanting a niche, I kind of ended up having that niche that I worked with. And so that's kind of what I ran with. So I didn't have any other businesses other than those. And then the pandemic sort of hit, and I lost all of my clients literally overnight because there were restaurants, bars, and nightclubs, and they all got closed down. So as soon as they got closed down, they didn't have an income coming in. So the first thing they do is they look at where their outgoings are, and marketing was the first thing that they cut off. And it is what it is. So I went from having, I think we were somewhere between 15 and 20 clients to zero. Well, actually, no, that's not true. I ended up with one, and that client is still with me today and flourishing really, really well. So that's the power of not, packing your marketing in, even in a very difficult situation. So, but then my business model did change. And that was because mainly a slight bit of panic on my own part, because I didn't know how things were going to pan out. All the businesses I've been working with were all closed down. So I started looking for businesses outside of that niche, and I did end up with growing it quite bigger, and I probably ended up with about 30 clients, and I probably was working across 20 different niches or different, business sectors at that point. So that was when I kind of had to, but I found that harder because then I was having to learn new things. Because when we work with a business, the first thing we do is we learn everything about that business. So if you're only working with one niche, it's very easy because you've got one niche to learn about, whereas we're having to learn 10, 15, 20 different business sectors. So we've got quite a wide range of knowledge in that now, which is great. However, it's very hard to sort of laser focus for a business, you know, when it comes to putting out their content, knowing where their client base are and that kind of thing. So I've now gone full circle again. And even though I do have 10, 15 clients from different sectors, I primarily now work back with the hospitality sector and also with the beauty sector. I know they're a little bit conflicting, but there are a few reasons for that. They're easy to work with. They need a lot of help, and I think they're very easy to help as well.
No,
And we've got a lot of knowledge in those sectors as well now.
And as a model, then, some of the work that you're doing is essentially as an outsourced provider of social media and a multi-channel social media. But you mentioned about educating people as well. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so when we talk about educating people, I have two ways that I'll do that. So one will be educating the people that I'm already working with. So, you know, we don't just say, we do all your work, you don't do anything, you don't get involved. We like to get our businesses involved, and we like to train them as we go along. And a lot of people in my industry would say, oh, don't do that because they'll leave. And it's, well, I don't find that at all. I find they have more confidence in you when you're actually showing them a little bit behind the curtains. You know, so if I'm running Facebook ads for a client, for example, I would give them a guided tour of how I'm setting their ads up, you know, what my goal is and my aims. And I also say to them, you know, if you want to come in and tweak these things, this is how you do it. So rather than them jumping in and, you know, making a mess of it, I'd rather they came in and knew that what they were doing. Now, don't get me wrong, they never do. They never come in but they like to think that they can if they need to. But then, you know, they might want to put a video up very quickly, and they might want to put a few subtitles on it or edit it up a little bit. So I will do a quick training video showing them how to do that as well. So that's on the client side of things. But then I also do training just for general business owners to keep them up to date with, you know, what's new in social media, what's working, how to get leads for their specific industries as well. And I do, you know, short videos for those, and I just put that content out for free. And I also train other people to become how to become social media managers themselves. So that's kind of a separate arm to the business. But I do a lot of training in that side of things as well.
So the training of others to pick up areas of skill sets, how are you? I suppose there's two parts to this. Is there a certain demographic, if you like, of people that are doing this? Whenever I generally speak to people in social media, on the whole, they are everything at the other end than the no hair, grey hairs that I fit into. And they tend to be, you know, there's a standard joke that if they're already in their 30s, they're probably 15 years too old to actually do a great job. So is it a certain type of people? Is it the young people who really understand social media and are looking to create that into a business? Or is it, again, people who are just going, actually, I would like to do this as a business rather than I'm social media first and how do I sort of transform it? So which is it, or is it generally not as clear cut as that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about the training that I do to bring other people on to become social media managers, yeah. So that you'd think there was a definite profile of a person who would want to do that, but there really isn't. So just to give you some context, I've got an online program that this is what I sell people into, and it's a paid program, but it's quite extensive. It's all online training videos, and it is to take people from a complete beginner right up to what I would call a competent social media manager. Now, at the moment, I've probably got about 30 or 40 people going through that right now. The youngest one is 21, 22, and the oldest one is 67.
All right.
Knowledge wise, there's people in there who have zero social media knowledge at all. And that is from a wide age group as well. You know, you'd think it would be the older generations that have the least knowledge. That's not always true. You know, I've got a couple of 20-plus-year-olds with very limited knowledge on social media, great at sending texts, great at doing little TikTok videos, but outside of that, no real, you know, sort of grasp on it whatsoever. Because let's face it, knowing social media is not just knowing how to go on Facebook and make a few posts or go on TikTok and do a quick TikTok video. As a business, there's a lot more to it, because there's the back end of social media that if you don't sort of actively go and seek it out, you wouldn't even know it existed. So most people don't have that knowledge. So there's a kind of a wide range of people. Now, with regards to the people who want to get into this and do it, it doesn't normally start with the passion for social media. It's generally starting for the want to be able to either work from anywhere, you know, have control over their finances, or just be able to not be beholden to a boss anymore. You know, because let's face it, there's more and more people want to be self-employed, but also they want to have that control over their own lives. You know, where there might be you know, a housewife or a house husband who has 2 or 3 kids. So childcare is massively expensive. Trying to fit a job around looking after a house is almost nigh on impossible. So they're looking for something they can do from home. And let's face it, the amount of scams that have been going around for people, you know, make a quick buck working from home, they're kind of a little bit more savvy to that as well, which is a good thing. So it's a lot of people who want to just take control of their own lives, be able to work from anywhere, you know, be able to work sort of not in a set amount of hours. So they might want to do 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, 3 or 4 days a week, but also be able to control their own finances. You know, they might be able to want to set, I want to, you know, this month I want to earn £2,000 a month and going on from that. And this business gives them that kind of model that they can build into that as well.
So moving forward, you said that your journey's been almost, it's sort of gone full circle, that you started with the hospitality side, you then were forced away, you've come back to that along with other clients.
Yeah.
You've got the teaching of other people and teaching of clients to use social media. So what's next for you? What do you see as the next phase in your journey?
Yeah, so I think the next thing for me is definitely something that I've been seeing progressing over the last year, which is something that my audience, if you like, is feeding back to me all the time. And that is there's the training that I'm doing now is training to train people to become social media managers. But what I'm not doing and what I'm probably missing, and it's the next thing I'm going to go into, is just basically there's a whole host of people out there, business people, who are running their own business, but they might just be one person, or they might have a very small team, but they don't want to outsource all the social media. They don't want to give that control over to other people. They do want to keep it in-house. They do want to do it themselves, but they don't have they're like kind of lacking a little bit in the knowledge or the skills to move that forward, or just the confidence to be able to do it. So I think for me, the next thing I will be doing is setting up some kind of a program for those people to fill that kind of gap. So whether that becomes a membership, where a business can just join a membership at a very low cost, you know, we're talking 10, 20, 30 pounds a month, but it would give them all the resources that they would need, that they can just jump into themselves, or put a team member into, where there'll be maybe an ongoing training, but also accountability pods. You know, I'll be there sort of not 24/7, but I'll be there at their beck and call, so they can call me up, or, you know, get me on a Zoom for that kind of support and that training. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to kind of fill that gap that I believe is there at the moment. So you know, if it's a bigger business, they've got the team to be able to, you know, send somebody on a course, or they'll have a marketing department that's taking care of it. But it's the smaller SMEs, you know, the businesses that are turning over less than £1 million a year. These are the ones that just don't have the resources to be able to do that. But they don't want to. There's a lot of businesses just don't want to give up all that control to somebody else. They want to keep it within themselves or within their own, you know, staff team, and that's perfectly fine. So I think for me to be able to offer that as an option, I think will be a really good thing.
I think, and certainly in different markets, knowledge base and education of people actually overcomes this leap of faith when we're asking people to completely outsource a function which has to have an ROI. Until they've done it, until they see it working, it is a leap of faith. And whatever the marketing strategy is, it is always, until you get a return, you're taking that risk. It's that element of wanting to maintain control, I guess. But as a business owner, yeah, we're more sort of going, okay, I'll outsource some of it, but I want to upskill myself and then pass that on to other people as well. And then I reduce the need for daily inputs, but will still embrace the fact that I've got support as and when I need it.
Yeah,
Rather
absolutely.
than abdicating all responsibility and just saying it's been outsourced. And yeah, it sort of does move away from that and alleviates that. So I suppose the sort of final question, well, one of the final questions, what makes the Social Ninjas unique? Because it's a highly subscribed kind of market with people coming in daily, I guess, with skills and understanding of social media, not necessarily in a business context, but there's lots of people proclaiming knowledge. So what makes Social Ninjas unique and different?
Well, I think primarily the thing that makes the Social Ninjas different is me. You know, because we are a small team now, and I think most of that is because I've had so much background in sort of business and in the digital space, and I've also, because I've seen all these other people coming into the space. And when I first started, there was still a ton of other people doing social media. But what they weren't doing is, you were talking about ROIs, you know, getting a return on the investment. There's a lot of social media agencies and management companies and solopreneurs who are doing it, but they're not even thinking about an ROI. They're just saying, well, look, we can do this. Whereas the first thing I'll say to a business is, look, in 3 months' time, if I've cost you, let's say, £3,000, if I haven't made £6,000 for your business in tangible revenue, we're probably not doing the right thing, and it's probably not working. So we either need to change what we're doing, or you need to find somebody else. But mostly you need to be able to say to a business, it's a lot, as you'll know, as a business owner, it's very hard to be told when you're doing something wrong, or when you should be doing something else. And I'm quite comfortable telling people when they're doing things wrong, or when they should be doing something else. And I don't mind if they tell me to get lost either, you know. But I do sort of talk my mind when I go into a business. I'll say, look, what you're doing here is not working. You need to be doing this. But I can usually put my money where my mouth is. So I try and, you know, like say to people, look, we have rolling contracts. We don't sign people into contracts. You can cancel whenever you like. If you've had 3 months work from us and you think we've cost you 3 months revenue and not made you a penny back, you know, just ask for your money back and we'll give you it back. And, you know, I've had clients for 4 years, 5 years now. So I think what I'm doing is kind of working. But, you know, and sometimes it's just being sort of not afraid to try something new. Don't just get stuck down the same old path. You know, you've got to embrace new things like AI and things like that. You know, a lot of people, when AI came out, even though it's been around for a long time, but when they kind of packaged it up recently and brought it out as the new thing, loads of people said, oh, that's it. Social media management's dead in the water. AI will do it all now. But it's like, well, no, not really. You've got to embrace AI. Yes, for sure. because it's going to work for every different industry in different ways. But certainly don't be worried about it or afraid about it. And it's the same with everything. You know, anybody in business should be embracing new things, seeing what works for them, seeing what doesn't work for them, and making quick decisions. You know, like if something's not working, stop it and move on. You know, if something's working, invest more time and energy into it.
I think the AI one's a classic case, isn't it? I see it struggling with context, not content, and when you can still humanize it, you still need people to make the stories personal and relevant. So it is that contextual kind of thing. Over time, maybe it'll get better at that. At the moment, it falls a long way short, but it's a wonderful thing for the content. You know, I mean, it just makes our life a lot easier. So, final question then. You've been doing this. Your journey's been what, 6-7 years now, in the making as the Social Ninjas. So, is there anything that you would have changed if you had your time again? If you could hit it with a magic wand or sprinkle fairy dust on it, is there anything that you've learned that you would go, hey, I'd do it in a different way?
Wow. Yeah, that's a big question, isn't it?
How long we got?
Hey, I'm one of these people who I always say, don't ever have any regrets. And you know, don't ever regret a decision you've made. Just change. If you've made a wrong decision, just change it and move on. However, with hindsight, yes, there are things I would have changed. And I think, if anything, there's probably things that I'm doing now that I should have been doing 2 years ago, but I was probably a little bit afraid to push myself out there and just go for it. So that's a hard lesson I've had to learn. You know, just sometimes you've just got to trial things and go for it. We all make mistakes in business and in life. If you don't make mistakes, you're not playing hard enough or scary enough. So for me, I think my lesson now anyway, and for myself and for everybody else, is if you're not scaring yourself in your business a little bit, you're not playing hard enough. You know, you need to step up a little bit of a level. Surround yourself. I always say you should be the dopiest person in the room. If you're not, you're in the wrong room. You know, get in a room that's got more intelligent people than you. Start asking some hard questions, because they're the sort of people who will turn around and tell you when something's not working in your business and what you should do about it. And I've had those people tell me these things, and thankfully I do listen to them now. I probably didn't listen to them enough back in the day, but I do now.
All been there.
Yeah, we've all been there. You know, I do subscribe to a mastermind myself, which is what led me on to want to do one anyway. And you know, there's people in my mastermind who tell me all the time, Ian, why are you doing that? It's not making you any money. It's just costing you time and energy. And I think, yeah, you know, they're right. You know, so I think that's kind of where I am at the moment.
And actually, what you've sort of answered in that is great advice for anyone else starting out as well. Is, you know, that given the information at hand at that point in time, there is no such thing as making a wrong decision.
Yeah,
you've made a decision based on the information you had. Might turn out to be incorrect, or it might turn around to be, you know, ineffective. But making the decision was the right thing. Procrastination is the biggest killer of any business that's out there. Because there's no innovation, there's no risk, and without risk, there's no reward. So, you know, great advice for other people, either when they're starting out, or, you know, if we did have such a thing as a, you know, magic wand and could turn back time and everything like that, maybe you would have done that slightly differently or whatever. But you know, I applaud anyone who's willing to take risks, and you know, long live the entrepreneurs in our economy. That's what I say. So
100%.
So Ian, that does bring us towards the end of the interview. Is there anything that you'd like to add, or anything that we've not covered today, or whatever, before we wrap up?
No, I think just first of all, thanks for having me, Ron. It's been great. I think the only thing I would add is you're right. There is a lot more people coming into self-employment now, setting up their own businesses. There's a lot more younger people doing it as well, which I think needs to be applauded and they need to be encouraged. And, you know, us older generation people need not to be afraid by them. We need to help them and encourage them because they're our future. And, you know, I'm very happy to help anybody in any way that I can. So, you know, if anybody who's watching this video feels that there's anything that I can help them with, I'm happy for them just to message me and I'll help if I can.
And it'd be churlish not to take you up on that advice, quite frankly, is what I would add to that, for the simple reason there may be areas where you can say, hey, look, you know, with the best intentions and with all sort of knowledge and understanding, this actually, you know, it's playing to your ego, not to what's going to actually make you money in this as a business. You might be brilliant at that, but if people won't pay for it, you need to just rein it into what people will pay for and then show your brilliance after that. So, you know, I think really good advice. And as we sort of wrap up, I would also echo what Ian said. If you're watching this, if you're wanting just to pick up the phone and speak to somebody who's been on this journey, is more than willing to help and acknowledges the fact that has surrounded himself with other people who've offered advice, and that has only been a good thing, do please pick up the phone, speak to Ian, see what nuggets of wisdom that you can get, and then use that, work with him, and then use that to strengthen your own business. So great advice and a great share. So it does bring us to the end. If you are watching this and want to actually record your own sort of interview, please do just get in touch. When we circulate these on various different social medias and newsletters and whatever, there's always a way of how to get in touch and how to book in to actually record your own. So you can, just like Ian has, showcase your business, share what's actually going on, and actually spread the word to a wider audience. So it does bring us to the end. So once again, a very, very big thank you to Ian. Great for having you along this afternoon, and thank you indeed for sharing your journey. So thank you. All that remains to be said. So that's Ron Maycock finishing off another one of our business spotlight interviews, and we'll see you very soon. Take care, keep smiling.